Hi guys, my name is Ventrella and I'm the viticulturist for KWV. I've been with KWV since 2010, back end of 2010, so this is my 8th vintage with them. Viticulturist is the winemaker in the vineyards. I mean, it's a long word, but basically I'm the vine hound. I'm the guy out in the vineyards, working with the growers, working with our vineyards, trying to make sure that each parcel of fruit we have gets to the right place, hits the right wine style from all over the Western Cape. But essentially I'm part of the wine team and I work very, very closely with the winemakers and they with me, ensuring that each step of the way we're looking after our vineyards from inception, from the concept of the planting right the way through to harvesting at the end of the day, and making sure we get the right style, the right ripeness and the right quality. So viticulture is about working with the vines and working with the terroir. But vines, I don't know if most people know this, but each wine that you drink, whether it's a Cabernet or a Sauvignon Blanc or a Chenin Blanc, they come from different plants. It's still Vitis vinifera, but it's a Chenin Blanc plant or it's a Cabernet plant. And there's a lot of technical stuff and a lot of stuff that I have to try and keep straight in my head, and I'm not a very clever guy. So I like to try and put things in a way that makes sense to me. And I've ultimately, I think, figured out that they have different personalities for me, as people, if you will. I suppose stereotype is one way to say it, but it is a negative connotation. I prefer archetype, if you like. But they're different kinds of people, the different vines. And they're that way in terms of how they operate in the soil, in the climate, in the glass, in the winery, right the way through. And so there are a few golden threads for me. And so I'll kick off with Sauvignon Blanc. So for me, Sauvignon Blanc is a runway model diva. Okay, she's an absolute diva. She's all sort of, it's all angles and bones and elbows and knees and collarbones. She's basically a hanger for clothing. So she climbs out of the glass. It's exquisite to look at. It's very, very vibrant, incredible to see, but there's not a lot of meat on the wine. It's a leaner wine, there's a higher acidity. And for me, Sauvignon, why I say runway model diva is because if she doesn't have exactly the right room with the right air conditioning and a perfect sea view, she throws her toys. She absolutely has a cadenza. And for me, so Sauvignon Blanc for me needs to be by the sea, cool climate, needs to have a sea view, needs to have the right combination of sea breezes and cool but sunshine in order to ripen it. And if any one of those things go slightly wrong, Sauvignon's not a happy girl. So that's Sauvignon Blanc for me. Whereas we have somebody like Cabernet Sauvignon. Now Cab's actually got two sides to Cab. First off, for me, I mean, Cabernet is king and Chardonnay is his queen, and we'll get to Chardonnay in a minute. But Cabernet Sauvignon is the firstborn son. Okay, so he's the dependable one. He's the one, you don't have to check up on him, you don't have to see what he's doing. He's going to grow up to be a lawyer, a doctor, a banker, he's going to wear a suit, he's self-regulating, and he's like that with water, he's like that with everything. Self-regulating, stoic, doesn't complain, he'll do, and very conservative. So doesn't yield a lot of grapes, small bunches, small berries, low yields, big structure. A lot of structure, again, that conservative comes through. A lot of structure, a lot of classic lines in the wine, but he doesn't complain. Cab never complains, not about anything. So you got to watch out for Cab, because by the time you see on the vine that Cab's taking strain, too late. So you got to take care of Cab, but you can make sure that he's got enough. He's got enough food, he's got enough water, he's got enough everything else, and he'll get there in the end. The other side of Cab that I don't know if everybody knows this is Cabernet is actually the love child. So Sauvignon, the diva, was off holidaying, I don't know where, runway models holiday, Stade or something, and ran into the old aristocrat Cabernet Franc. They had a good time, and some 9 months later, Cabernet Sauvignon. So Cabernet Sauvignon's mum is Sauvignon Blanc and father is Cabernet Franc. And so we see both of those characteristics in Cabernet Sauvignon. And that's why we've got to be a little bit careful. You can't put Cabernet just exactly on Sauvignon Blanc territory, because you'll end up with some of those green flavors that is so attractive in a Sauvignon. We don't want it in the Cab. But that old aristocrat, that still comes through, that elegance, that structure, that conservatism of Cabernet Franc, where Franc is a little bit more, he's really more the old aristocrat. He's that that guy in a you know, hunter green jumper that shows up in an old trashed Land Rover that's been all over the world, and he's got 5 dogs in the back, you know, and you know, he speaks in round dulcet vowels. So that's Cabernet Franc for me. Chenin Blanc, our most planted grape, is, for me, in Afrikaans they say the boeremeisie, the farm girl. Now it doesn't have to be an Afrikaans girl, but a farm girl. Why I say that is because she can literally do anything. So Chenin Blanc can do everything, and we do everything with it, from making rebate wine for brandy production right the way through to noble late harvest wine, dessert wine, and absolutely everything in between. Chenin Blanc, for me, I mean, she's that lady. She can raise the family, handle the house, is a knockout in a gown. She can shoot better than the men, and she'll kick your ass on a pool table. So, you know, watch out. She'll probably drink you under the table too. But always a lady. And for me, Chenin Blanc is like that. She takes anything you can throw at her. She handles every terroir we have in the country, does it very well. She'll give you a different style every time, mind you. It's not the same thing. It's never copy-paste. But then neither are farm girls. They're never exactly the same. Some will shoot better. Some will play better darts. Some will be better on a scrambler, you know. But it's that kind of I can do it all. Chenin is also rounder, softer. There's more fragrance, there's more palate. It's a rounder, sweeter kind of wine. Not sweet as in sugar, but sweet as in fruit sweetness that comes through in Chenin Blanc. So Chenin for me is really more a woman, more a real woman. And that's why I talk about Sauvignon as the runway diva model. Because that leanness, you know, she's a size 0. Poor thing's hungry. But Chenin Blanc is really more a real woman. She's got real curves, and that's Chenin. If we go through to Shiraz, is a different character. I mean, Shiraz for me, Shiraz is a 16-year-old child. It's just painted its hair black, its nails black, its room black. You know, left to its own devices, it's going to make a complete stuff of everything. I mean, it wants to grow crazy, blow up its berries, bear lots of fruit, make crap wine. That's what it wants to do. All right, it just wants to lose its mind. And it has no regulation. It can't regulate the way it works with water. If there's water there, it's going to use it and it'll run itself into a wall. It's not Cabernet Sauvignon. So this teenager, this mental thing that you can't even really communicate with, requires good orderly discipline. And so that's what we do with Shiraz. We put it on more difficult soil, we regulate water, we regulate food, we pull it back, and just like a bloody teenager, it moans about the slightest discomfort is the end of the world, okay? And you'll see it in the vine as well. I mean, the moment there's a little bit of water stress in Shiraz, it starts to fold up its leaf, and it looks pitiful, it goes grey, and it's, oh, I'm dying, I hate you, you're ruining my life, blah. And you can't listen to that noise, you can't, because if you do, you give water, it's off again, being just stupid. So you've got to just keep it back. There's obviously a line. Where something like Mourvèdre, I mean, Mourvèdre is beyond. Mourvèdre is a light criminal. Mourvèdre has been to prison once or twice, small things, you know, stole a car and stuff like this. Nothing hectic, but he needs a warden, not a parent. So just to compare those two Rhone varieties for you. Then we got one of my favorite grapes, obviously as a South African must be, which is Pinotage. So Pinotage for me is a bit of you know, it took me a while to kind of figure Pinotage out. Pinotage has two parents. Pinot Noir, the aristocratic Pinot Noir, I mean the debutante from Burgundy, and Cinsault, Hermitage, which is where Pinotage gets its name from. We used to call it Hermitage in this country. Don't ask me why, but that's it. But it's Cinsault. And that's literally the guy from the wrong side of the tracks, you know what I mean? He comes from no money, has nothing, and no real future. So these two got together and produced Pinotage. And the problem with Pinotage is that he was never really accepted by anybody. He didn't fit in, and the aristocrats didn't want anything to do with him. He grew up on the wrong side of the track, but the people there didn't want anything to do with him either. So he grew up with a big old chip on his shoulder and was truly misunderstood for the longest time. But Pinotage doesn't give up, ever. Every year it comes back, it'll try again, it'll try to bear enough fruit, it'll try to make a good wine. You just got to understand how to work with Pinotage. And I think now, over the years, since we've been making Pinotage in South Africa, we've gone through that misunderstood period. And for me, Pinotage has come good. He's a self-made man. He's incredibly successful. He can stand with the others, and we see that in the wines. You line up great Pinotages blind, and they'll stand up with the best of Bordeaux, the best of Napa, the best of Australia. They'll stand up with the best wines in the world. But there's always something slightly different, and that's his sort of character. He's grown up. We don't know how he made his first money. I'm pretty sure some of it was dodgy, but he's there now in the end, and that for me is Pinotage. Another one of my big favorites is Petit Verdot, which is a variety I incidentally think is absolutely suited to South Africa, and we do a lot of Petit Verdot. We're probably the biggest Petit Verdot producers in the country. Now, Petit Verdot is this grape that came from Bordeaux. It literally means little green because it makes these little green berries, tiny little green berries in amongst the rest of the bunch. And they struggled to ripen it there, and so that it became less and less used. Petit Verdot is a funny one. So Petit, it's so delicate and tender in the beginning of the season. When Petit Verdot, we can't even go in there and do shoot thinning. We call it suckering, where we remove the excess shoots. We can't do that until the first wires have been hooked for Petit Verdot, because literally if you touch one of the shoots, it'll break. It's that brittle. So you've got to be careful with Petit. But it becomes this incredible thing at the back end of the season, handling our heat, handling the sunshine in South Africa, holding acidity, keeping freshness, providing concentration and structure all the way through in the wine, that it's just this absolute hero. So for me, Petit Verdot is that guy. You remember him at school, right? That guy could never do PE. He could never do PE physically. He had the letter, permanent letter from the doctor, like he couldn't do anything. And he had the pump, and he was allergic to everything. Like he couldn't go anywhere. This guy was one step from dying at all times. Okay? So that guy, that's Petit Verdot. But that guy grows up. That guy goes to film school, wins 4 Oscars, marries the leading lady, and is a bloody rock star. And so that's Petit Verdot for me. Petit Verdot is the nerd in the group, you know, that takes it hard in the beginning, but he will change the world. And so Petit Verdot, I'm really excited about that. I said I was going to talk about Chardonnay, and I said earlier that Cab is king in the world in terms of consumption and so on, and Chardonnay is his queen. So Chardonnay is a bit difficult. Chardonnay she's the head girl at school, right? She's the head girl at school. She's Cab's feminine half. She does everything that's expected of her. All goes well, you know, there's no problem. She's the prefect, she does well, everything's great. And so that's Chardonnay in the vineyard. But when she's a bit naughty, when she's a little bit off, and she is definitely has the capacity to do that, where Cab is, he'll stay straight, you know. But she'll definitely show up with that school shirt tied in a knot, having a drink and a smoke. So Chardonnay, why I talk about her that way is because when we take that Chardonnay and we do what we call a dirty ferment, we take a lot of solids through to the fermentation and do some wild fermentation, the most incredible things come from this quite straight-laced lady. So that's Chardonnay for me. So Merlot, people often say to me, so what's Merlot? Who's Merlot? And I've got to tell you, Merlot as a vine, if I talk about viticultural and wine principles, Merlot has a tendency to, Merlot tends to grow shorter shoots, tends to be floppier and lie all over the show. We struggle to get it properly into a terrace, tends to want to bear a little bit too much, more than Merlot, more than she can actually handle. She can be so elegant and so exquisite and so beautiful and almost ethereal in fruit and what she brings to the big blends, the Cabernet and the Franc and the Petit Verdot. But she can also often have that kind of hard line to her. So for me, I say Merlot is often, I think of Merlot as the single mom of the group. Okay, Merlot is a single mom. She certainly doesn't know how to say no, but she's worked and she's I mean, it's hard. This is not easy. None of this is easy. And that's where that line can sometimes, but she will take on more than she can actually manage. She's not going to moan. You don't hear her complain or groan or about anything. She's doing it and she's going for it. But if she can get a little bit of help, if you can just give her a little bit of help, just a break every now and then, you can get the most exquisite thing from Merlot. I mean, it's different to something like Grenache Blanc, which is completely codependent. You know, Grenache Blanc is completely codependent. Grenache Blanc just doesn't exist in Grenache Blanc's book. Grenache Blanc is a complete people pleaser, will do everything you want. So we'll bear too much, we'll do too much, we'll try too much. So you've got to help there as well. You've got to say no for Grenache Blanc. But when you do that, you have this thing that just surprises you every time, just knocks you sideways. Grenache Blanc for me is it's that person in the room that you kind of didn't notice was there the whole time, and one comment in the night has just brought the whole house down, and you just go, what the hell? That, you know, absolute insight and new respect, and oh damn, okay, you are, hello, who are you and what's going on? So Grenache Blanc is that person for me. Just the most incredible aging ability as well, freshness, a completely different profile of fruit. So Grenache Blanc, I'm really excited by Grenache Blanc. Pinot Noir is that girl that broke your heart and shattered it and wrecked you. And doesn't matter how old you are, she still has power over you. Even after you swore up and down, never again, nothing, and you walk past her in a mall and she's got you again. And just a smile. I mean, she literally, it reminds me of that old Billy Joel song, Always a Woman to Me. You know, there are lines in that song about she'll cut you and laugh while you're bleeding. You know, she steals like a thief. And the most she will do is throw shadows at you, but she's always a woman to me. That's Pinot Noir. I mean, she literally has all the power, and she can use it at will, and she will break your heart. And that's why we call it the heartbreak grape. It's a difficult grape to grow, it's a difficult grape to make wine from, and it's just fraught with danger the whole way through. But when it's wonderful, when it is good, angels sing. It's quite an exquisite thing. But once you're hooked, good luck.